want to speak today? Well, okay. We're going to get a budget passed today, and we'll see. You don't have to sign it now if you don't want. You don't have to sign it now. I'm just signing getting out the way because I know how I'm going to vote.
Oh, very good.
Okay. Yeah, you can sit back down here. You already got 3 on them. You need no more. Okay. Yes.
Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to go into executive session and would like to add a personnel matter to the executive session agenda.
Second.
It has been properly moved and second. All in favor of say aye.
Aye.
In compliance with the Freedom of Information Act, notice of meetings and agendas were posted and furnished to all news media and persons requesting notification.
Okay.
Y'all are in executive session, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Really?
Yes.
It looked like we kind of crowded in here tonight. We don't want to follow directions, but we got to. And since you're in here, I'm gonna let you stay at this point. But I'm gonna call for a motion. Come out of executive session.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Second.
It's been properly moved and second. All in favor of?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you.
Madam Chair, I have two motions coming out of the executive session. The first would be moved to authorize the administrator to renew and cancel retirement plans if necessary to transition from ICMA RC to Mission Square Retirement Plan as discussed in executive session. Need a motion and a second.
We do that. Okay. Let's call for a motion, a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Madam Chair, second motion is moved to authorize the county administrator to execute the conflict waiver with the law firm of Burr Foreman as discussed in executive session.
Okay, is that pleasing to everyone? I call for second.
Second.
It's been properly moved and second. All in favor? Say aye.
Abstain.
Okay, thank you. We're gonna call for the Pledge of Allegiance by Mr. Souls and the invocation by Councilman Atkins.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
O most holy and righteous God, we come before you on another Monday when promised us. Father God, we thank you how you watched over us last night as we slumbered and slept. Father God, woke us up this morning on due time, closing our right mind. Father God, we are about getting ready, Father God, to go in our third Monday night meeting, Father God. Father God, we ask you to allow everyone to govern themselves, Father God, and follow the guidelines as we go forward. We ask all the many blessings in your Son Jesus' name. Let everybody say amen.
Amen.
Amen. Approval of the agenda,
So moved, Madam Chair.
Second.
properly moved and second. All in favor? Say aye. And we had
You call for the approval of the agenda.
yes.
Council members, after the agenda packet went out last week, there was an omission noticed in the minutes. Councilman Kemp had submitted a written list of items that were to be attached to the minutes. They were not, so the amended minutes include that note that Councilman Kemp had asked for that, and the Exhibit B is now attached, which are the attachments that he had submitted. So if you move to, whatever chooses to be moved to approve as with that amendment.
Call for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Properly moved and second. All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Moving right along. Is the coroner here?
No, ma'am, we have not seen him this evening.
Okay, he's been asked to come to this meeting because, as you know, one of his main things was that he didn't have a reliable vehicle to do his job. We have a brand new van sitting out there in the yard, that we wanted to present the keys in front of the public so that they will know the truth from the untruth. We are presenting this van to the coroner's office. And Mr. Fulgham, I'm going to leave this key in your possession.
We'll deliver it to him, thank you.
And deliver it to him because we're going to take the insurance and the tags and everything off of that black van. So he's going to be illegal. But we wanted you all to know. Chief Magistrate Anthony Badgett, overview of the magistrate office.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
My name, as you mentioned, is Catherine Badgett. I'm currently serving as Chief Magistrate, and Judge Lee, who stands here beside me, is Associate Chief. We've had an awful lot of changes in the Magistrate's office of late, and as a result of some of those changes, some questions have arisen, and I thought that it would be appropriate to maybe give you a brief overview of what we do there. Thank you for allotting us the time, Madam Chairwoman and Council, to move forward with giving you this information. It's a lot to deliver in a short period of time, so I'll try to make it as quick as possible. We're not before you for requests for any specific project or issue. It's just more than anything to let you know what we do and what we do, how we do it, and what our tools are. While most people think of the Magistrate's Court, they think about traffic court. That's the part of the court that everybody identifies with most immediately because that's the part of the court that most citizens have interaction with. While we do have jurisdiction over those issues which are considered to be criminal, and a general way to describe criminal cases would be offenses against the state, we also have jurisdiction over many other criminal areas of the law. Criminal cases are to be distinguished from civil cases, which are cases between private parties concerning wrongful conduct, which is not a crime. Most traffic offenses arise from the issuance of a traffic ticket. However, our criminal jurisdiction encompasses much more than just traffic court. A lot of people think that when law enforcement wants to arrest somebody, they just go out there and do it. Well, that's not always the case. Most people, that's true for certain crimes which occur within the officer's view or which are freshly committed, but many other crimes require that a warrant be issued, and that requires that the officer come before the magistrate, be placed under oath, establish probable cause before the warrant is issued. Issuing warrants to me is one of our primary responsibilities because it involves the deprivation of an individual's liberty. And those warrants are not just magistrate level offenses, which is I think one of the areas where people are confused. Those are all basically all general sessions cases from the bottom to the top, from smaller crimes to more serious crimes. Once a person is arrested and is in jail, whether it's on a ticket or a warrant, those individuals are entitled to have a bond hearing. A bond hearing is where a magistrate decides whether a person will be released from jail and the conditions and circumstances under which that release will occur. We hold bond hearings twice a day, that down at the detention center. That's also on weekends. Generally during the week there's a bond court judge there full-time, but on the weekend we rotate this out between all of the judges. We were down to 3 for a while. We are now back up in numbers. That makes the rotation less frequent, but we do those rotations. In addition, the bond court judge that is on rotation on that weekend handles any requests for search warrants, arrest warrants, and anything else that needs to be done over that weekend. That time is not just 9 to 5. If someone needs a search warrant at 2 o'clock in the morning, we're up doing it. Also, if we have a fugitive from justice warrant, that has to be prepared. And we have to reach out to the state agency from the original offense and determine if they want to extradite. At these bond hearings, we're also charged with giving the defendant all the information that he needs regarding his rights. he or she needs regarding their rights. And we also have to be cognizant of the victim's rights, and these hearings often involve the presence of the victim's advocate. Another hearing that we have to hold within the criminal area of our responsibility is preliminary hearings. Preliminary hearings are probable cause hearings. We hold these once a month. We are currently doing so in Ms. Bostick's courtroom. She's been kind enough to allow us to use her courtroom when she has available days. We really have to work around that because our courtroom is not sufficient to do so safely even at this point. It's a very small courtroom. These preliminary hearings are in essence probable cause hearings to again make an evaluation as to whether or not there was sufficient cause for the arrest. Another of our responsibilities that I consider to be the most important is the issuance of search warrants. So that's before, if law enforcement believes somebody's committed a crime and there's evidence of that crime within their household or within their vehicle, they have to appeal to a magistrate, request be placed under oath, and give the reasons why they think that search warrant is appropriate. We do these search warrants not just for magistrate level offenses. They're for every case from the simplest of crimes all the way up to violent crimes, murders, attempted murders, drug cases. These are the ones that usually require the call in the middle of the night of search warrants. Generally, arrest warrants are handled another way. And it's important to note that all of our magistrates are essentially on call all of the time for these emergencies. And the reason why I say that is, usually the way we do it is the bond court judge from the week is expected to catch most of those calls. But if that individual wants to go out of town, have dinner with their family, or not be dedicated to their job 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, then the rest of the magistrates have to fill in. And on weekends, that's the case also. There's never a time when one of us does not have to be available to answer these calls. It's important to note that if a search warrant were issued improperly, that the result of that might be the exclusion of evidence, very important evidence, at the time of trial. So it's important that these are done correctly. The other types of criminal cases that are tried in our court are the more familiar ones, such as traffic cases. That would be driving under the influence, driving under suspension, speeding cases, simple possession. We do these cases every Tuesday and Thursday of each week. We also have 1 day per month where we try cases that are issued on warrants rather than tickets, over which our court has jurisdiction. These can be breach of trust cases, simple assault cases, shoplifting. We do Department of Natural Resources cases, which are hunting violations. We do actions involving the state transport police, animal control cases, and code enforcement cases. And these are all generally done 1 day per month. In order to effectively try these cases, the magistrates who do so need to be knowledgeable about the elements of each offense, the defendant's rights, the victim's rights. We also have a civil aspect to our court system. We handle common contract actions up to $7,500. That would be somebody's providing a service, doing work to your house, and they don't do it properly. We also have claim and delivery, which are actions for the return of personal property that's wrongfully taken by another. Judicial sales, which are more frequently car is towed from an accident, it's repaired, the garage, no one comes to see about it, so the garage is attempting to obtain title to those things, and storage liens. We also hear landlord-tenant issues, frequently, or most frequently, evictions. And we hear tort actions, which is where an individual is alleged to have damaged another. What most people would more commonly recognize would be an auto accident with damages up to $7,500. Recently, we've been attempting to handle all of our non-jury civil cases on Wednesday of each week, and we're attempting to use Mondays and Fridays to catch up on jury trials. That's been a big problem for us because we were without facility to do jury trials during the entire time that the pandemic was underway. And in addition, we still feel concerned about the size of our courtroom. You're mentioning capacity here today. Certainly we can't place people this far apart in our courtroom if we're attempting to handle any jury trials. Also, in civil cases, if our decisions are appealed, we have to prepare a return on those appeals, and those returns can be lengthy and time-consuming because it involves giving a summary of the evidence and all the evidence that had been presented at trial and an explanation as to why we ruled the way we did. Also, we handle cases which arise under the Petition for Protection from Domestic Abuse Act. Those are generally handled by a family court, but if family court is out of session or if a family court judge is unavailable, they come before us. In a case, in a county like Jasper, we have family court 1 week out of a year, so 1 week out of a month, so those cases frequently fall to us to resolve. We also hear restraining orders in harassment and stalking cases. And then if those orders are issued, they're served to law enforcement to provide for the protection of the victim. And my purpose in providing this information is to stress the importance of what our office does. It's important for us to attract qualified judges who are willing to take on the responsibility of the office, and that means compensating them fairly for what they do. There is a statutory minimum salary. Again, I mentioned I'm not making any specific pleas today. There is a statutory minimum salary. But many counties and most of the surrounding counties do choose to pay their magistrates more than what that statutory minimum is. In addition, we have very limited courtroom space and office space. I mentioned we were unable to hold jury trials during COVID using Ms. Bostic's office for courtroom for prelims. Thank goodness she allowed us to do that. But that is of a concern. There actually, at this point, more magistrates than there are offices. I've never had an office, which is fine with me. I use my office across the street. But we've now got 2 magistrates stuck in one office with very little privacy for them to conduct the business that they need to conduct. A primary concern that I wanted to also address, although not in specific because it needs some evaluation, but is the concern for courtroom security. We, at the Adams Street office, where we conduct the majority of our business and which is where Judge Lee is located basically full-time, we have no metal detector, we have no security, we have no one evaluating who comes into and out of that building. I think that's a grave concern because we do require people to come to court, and those cases are frequently cases that involve people who are not happy with each other or angry at each other. And we are responsible as judges for the safety of those people when they're in our courtroom. And I mention these things to you because if future requests are made, if something comes up, just want you to consider the task that we handle and what we do it with so that you will have a little bit more information upon which to base your evaluation. And I'm happy to answer any questions, or Judge Lee, if there's anything that you want to add. Okay.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
as Chief Magistrate, how many assistants do you have?
Do you mean how many judges are currently with the magistrate's office now? I have no staff. I do what I do in my office, but Judge Lee is located at Adams Street. There are 4 clerks in that office. Right now, Judge Edwards, who is one of our newest judges, is at bond court because they have an exam that they have to take and a class that they have to take and an exam that they have to take, and they can do bond court prior to doing that. So she's down there doing bond court, and there are 2 new, Judge Johnson in Hardyville, and then there's one other new judge who's not come on yet. So there are now 6 of us. We were down to very, very few because of Judge Linus leaving and Judge McDonald's untimely death, and so we've now gotten ourselves back up a little bit. But is that what you meant by assistants, is how many other magistrates are there? Yeah.
And as being the chief, you will have assistants, is that correct?
Yes. All the magistrate judges, I think, are on the same level. I do have, from time to time, if someone makes a complaint or has an issue, as long as that magistrate is complied with the law, I don't consider it my responsibility to oversee what they do. That's why there are many different judges with many different opinions about how they would handle things. So mostly the responsibility of the chief magistrate is to do the schedules, to handle personnel issues, to address anything that might come up that might not be in compliance with the law. addressing any issues that come up with court administration and overseeing the budget, finances, and the trust accounts for the magistrate's
So
office.
how many magistrates do we have in the county?
We have 6 now. Only 4 of us are actually on board. The other 2, well, I would say partially 5 are on board. At this point, one of them is limited to what she can do based upon not having completed the exam and taken the test. They're supposed to do so in a month or so. So, any other questions I can answer?
Okay.
Madam Chair, I want to thank our magistrates for the job that they do, and especially concerned not only about the safety of the public, but the safety of the judges and the clerks. We need to see what resources might be available to provide that security there, because when you have people who don't get along coming to court, there's no telling what might happen. We've seen things, and that's a great concern to me, to make sure that we have security or some type of system in place. We need to really focus on that as a council and see what we can do to address that.
Well, thank you for that. I am concerned about safety.
As you should be. That's
Most definitely.
Anything
That
else?
has already been brought to us about are you not having the military take and all that. The administrator has already talked about that
Yes, ma'am.
and looking into some things to see what we can get done.
Yes, ma'am. Well, I do appreciate that. Thank you for your time.
And thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
At this time, I'm going to ask the county coroner to please come up.
Hello.
Hello. We asked you to come today because we have a van that we want to present to you for the coroner's office. This van belongs to the coroner's office. And Mr. Folger, you have the key.
She gave me the key.
You can hold those, Mr. Fuller. But I came today because I wanted to ask a few questions. I've been the coroner going on about 2 years now. And you all went out and purchased, from what I'm reading, a van, a new van. And no one called me, no one asked me what I thought about should go in the van, because the last time I checked, no one from the council is on those scenes 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. So out of respect for the coroner in my position, I think I should have at least been, and I spoke with the county administrator, I saw you a few times, I saw a few of you, but no one ever, to me it's disrespectful, because you all have an active coroner and you go around me and purchase a vehicle. I clearly asked 2 years ago, we have a van for the coroner's office. We didn't need a new van. We have a van. The reason that the van isn't being used because I'm the only county coroner that does not have a personal county vehicle. And the only explanation that I get from the council is you all will get me a van but not a vehicle. And you won't tell me why not. Well, I do more besides transport bodies. We investigate death. And no one from the council want to come down to the coroner's office to discuss this position, but you all go and purchase a $60,000 vehicle where you get a logo that's not the coroner's office logo placed on the van. You didn't ask my input on it. I speak with multiple coroners throughout the state. I know what my department needs. So for you all to take it upon yourself, I don't have a coroner's office. I don't have anything that I need, but for you all to just go and purchase something without even consulting with the coroner, that's another problem that I have. Yeah, the van is nice. I saw it in the parking lot, but how do you all know what I need? No one calls the coroner, So, Ms. Chairman Clark, I know you have personal issues with me. Councilman Sauls, I know you went and did it, but I know you do as well. So I think I'm the only elected official
Stop right there.
that gets treated differently.
Stop right there.
Yes, I'll stop. If you tell me I'm lying, please let me know.
Yes.
Yes.
You can't stand up there and tell me that I have personal issues with you.
It's all recorded live. Yes, you do.
I don't have personal issues with
Then
you.
what's the problem, Ms. Clark?
The problem is doing the right thing. That's what I have.
Doing what you tell me to do. The
And
people appointed me as the coroner. I'm doing my
We are
job.
here to represent the people in Jasper County.
Mhm.
That van out there belongs to all these people
Mhm.
you see sitting out here. They pay taxes.
Mhm.
And that's how you get these things. And
That's not the problem. You all did not ask me, do you ask the sheriff before you buy cars, or Chief
didn't have
Wells
to find
did?
out.
Do you
We
all
go
ask
on
me
the
before you
list,
go?
and
Do you ask them?
whatever is there on the list.
So that's a
what
no.
we do.
I get treated different than everyone else. So like I
Well, at this
said,
time,
you all picked the van,
we're
you
gonna
purchased
bring
the
you
van,
your clothes.
you outfitted the van. I'm done right, this is my closing. And you all can drive the van as well. Thank
Okay.
you all, have a great night.
Thank you. But when you don't have no insurance on the black one and riding around and the
I've been
police
using my
stop
personal
you,
car for the longest. You all forced me to
you
drive my
will
personal
have a
car.
problem, sir.
Well,
That's right. All we can do is our best for you, and I don't care what we do, it's not enough. We're gonna move right along to Mr. Wells. No, I'm sorry. We open the floor to the public.
Chairwoman Clark? Can you hear
What
me?
you say? Resolution, did I do resolution? I missed the resolution? No, just open the floor to the public.
We haven't received any public comments other than for Chelsea Point. So that will be later on for the public hearing.
Yes. And, we're gonna move right along.
Chief Wells? You have a, resolution number R 2022-15 for the IGA with the town of Richland regarding fire protection and emergency services.
Good evening, Madam Chairwoman and members of the council. The resolution before you on the IGA between the town of Richland and Jasper County is a 2-year extension of the fire coverage contract that is currently in place. We're just asking that the council sign the extension with the sunset date 2 years from the start of this fiscal year ending June 30, 2024.
Madam Chairman? This is just an extension, right? No additions and subtractions, just an addition.
No, sir, it's the same dollar amount that has been there. There is one difference in that the county has been charged with coverage of the airport in fire service, but we do have mutual and automatic aid agreements that are currently being massaged out.
Madam Chair, Chief, the town is fine in full agreement with everything with the governmental agreement.
Yes, sir, Mr. African has already signed and executed out. They presented it to their council and empowered him to sign. We are also asking that the administrator also have the authority to sign and execute the agreement as well.
Thank you. Madam Chair, I'll make a motion to approve the agreement between the town and Richland.
Call for a second.
So moved.
Properly moving, second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
The next item on the agenda is resolution number R 2022-16 to confirm such and appoint David Murphy as the code enforcement officer and liquor control officer for Jasper County for the proper security, general welfare, and convenience of Jasper County.
Madam Chair and members of the council, the Code Enforcement Division was also reassigned to the Emergency Services Division. And what we are asking for is that the appointment of David Murphy be properly moved into, affirmed into the appointment of the position of Code Enforcement and the Liquor Control Officer.
Okay. Any questions?
Madam Chair, I got one question. Chief, he'll be working with the Keep Jasper Beautiful
Yes, sir.
campaign and others that are working for volunteers for our litter control.
Yes, sir.
Will he'll be fully uniformed in a county vehicle?
He is in a county vehicle. It is a Ford F-250 crew cab. It is striped and lettered with code enforcement on it. This will also, he will need to obtained his Class 3. He is prior law enforcement, has Class 1, and a prior investigator with another law enforcement agency.
Are we gonna put a press release out so that we can get this out on our social media and the newspaper so the community knows that we have this in place now as a resource to help with this?
Yes, sir.
Got that covered? Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mr. Wills, when is your little patrol officer, when you gonna be able to carry a firearm? I mean, because knowing her being a female and she out there, I think she need protection. Because when she out there, you don't know what she gonna run up on, and I don't care how strong she is or how brave she is, but you gotta be protected with what's going on today.
Yes, sir. I understand that. The former code enforcement officer was medically cleared to return to full duty and has done so. This is Mr. David Murphy. He is assuming that role now, and that's why we are before you to get that appointment. As far as the ability to obtain Class 3 law enforcement, which is limited duty under the South Carolina Criminal Justice Academy, there are a few things that we are still working our way through. Part of this resolution will allow us to provide the documentation necessary to the Criminal Justice Academy to have his law enforcement credentials reinstated.
So you're saying that he'll be the only one carrying, but she won't be able to carry?
No, sir. The previous code enforcement officer returned to full duty in the fire rescue division, sir.
Okay, I'm gonna call for a motion.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Second.
Properly moving, second, all in favor of, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Yes, ma'am. The next item on the agenda is ordinances. Mr. David Tedder has a third reading of ordinance number 0/2022-16 to adopt plan development district PDD zoning for a tract of land consisting of approximately 38.84 acres there in Jasper County, tax map number 04100003030, located along Highway 278, approximately 2 miles east of I-95 exit 8, and is known as CSP Development PDD.
Madam Chair, members of council, I'm standing in for Lisa Wagner, who's not in. This has previously been before the council for 2 readings and a public hearing. You've had the information. It's 38 acres. It's located off 278 west of the entrance to Margaritaville. It's intended and presented as a 265 unit residential complex that will be solely owned and used as a rental, single family rentals. They've had a traffic study, they've completed everything. Council has previously approved it. There are no changes I'm aware of between second and third reading of the PDD, Land Development District. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Madam Chairman?
Yes.
I have a few. In the agreement, it said that Buford Jasper Water has agreed to take on the sewer and the water. But if you read the letter, it says they will take on the water, but on sewerage, they have to provide the pump station and infrastructure because the sewer is not available to that property, essentially. In the agreement, there's nothing there that says they will do that. So what happens if it becomes cost prohibitive? What happens?
As I recall, and I will find it, but this question is coming up, the development agreement, which is the next item we're taking up, has in there that this property has to be served by public water and sewer, which means that they do not get water and sewer from the county. The county issued the development permit. Excuse me, not from the county, from
So should we put that in the development agreement?
It is in the development agreement. I remember looking for that before, but it is in the development agreement. The representative owner is here tonight, Peter Zadaretsky, and he can confirm that.
I can answer that very, very simply.
Yes.
Peter Zadaretsky, I am the developer and applicant. The reason why the letter from the Water and Sewer Authority says that I have to provide sewer is because the sewer line, which is along the entire 2,700 feet of my my frontage is what they call a sewer force main. So to connect my sewer to a force main, which is a pipe under pressure, I have to provide a pump to pump it into a pipe that's under pressure, as opposed to just like a gravity sewer where it could just drip into a sewer line. That's why they said what they said, and we're obligated to provide that sewer pump station. We can't sewer without it, and we're going to do it.
But why wouldn't it be in the agreement that they would be done?
They just, when they spoke to me over the phone to tell me that they were going to provide the availability to serve, they just gave me a oral heads up that my on-site private sewer system would require the installation of a sewer pump at my sole cost and expense.
Okay, because the letter reads if, and you say it is. There's a difference.
Okay.
I mean, we have one shot at this, and after we assign it, then it's out of our hands. Okay, traffic. We have experienced in the last month 3 developments that have had problems with traffic. One being I-95, Hardyville is really adamant about that. We have the Chelsea South, which is adamant by this council, I think. I can't speak for the council. And we just had, Hardyville just had a nearby development turned down because of traffic on John Smith, which leads into 278. So I think we have to look at that. When the presentation was made, it was said that we have cuts there, and the cuts were there meant to be, that meant that the development would be made. But by their own admission, the Hutton, they went to from 292 trips for the 32 houses that were allowed to 2,237 trips a day. 15% would go to Brickyard, 15% would go to Eastern Access, and 70% to the main, which is 1565. Now, the turning lane was the 32 houses, which runs to 292. Now we went from 292 on the existing lanes, which the people have said that's okay, to 1,595 units being turned. I don't want to get like Margaritaville, so I travel 295. At one time, Margaritaville had so much traffic, they backed up on the 278, and 278 became a 1-lane highway from a 2-lane. And I guess this is an opening for us in the Hutton memo. Now, was that the traffic study? I don't think that was a traffic study. That was just a memo. The traffic study, when the Planning Commission gave this to us, they said before we agreed to it, we should have a traffic study. Hutton says 278 is at max. We're going to add more to it. Then there's a memo saying that Jasper County has put $10 million in the transportation fund to expand 278. I've been here 5 years, and I don't think I've ever seen any action on that. So, in asking, is there any development going to be made to expanding 278, or is it just we're going to not do it right now? Can somebody ask? Andy, can you tell me that?
Madam Chair, I believe you're referencing the initial packet that Mr. Zadareski presented. He had in it the original transportation sales tax ordinance that was passed by the County Council back in 2016, I believe. At that time, the council
proposed through the ballot question a transportation sales tax that would be 10 years in length and was estimated to reach a $30 million revenue in total. As we've talked about before, it has overperformed, and so we are gearing up at council's direction for a new referendum in 2024. The original projects that were listed in the ordinance were a combination of projects that were in unincorporated Jasper County and city limits of Partyville and in the town limits of Ridgeland. And since that time, as those projects got started, budgets were developed, other funds were leveraged for grant funds, those projects all changed to include Exit 3 and the need for additional funding for that project. And so that was all brought back to you. Intergovernmental agreements with South Carolina Department of Transportation were amended. Project descriptions were amended and reviewed by both municipalities, and the county council then readopted an ordinance amending that transportation sales tax, accurately stating what those projects are. So you are correct, Mr. Kemp, that was a project that was in the original list, but is not currently to be funded through transportation sales tax.
Well, in the December 6, 2021, that was listed as $10 million. And that's, they mentioned that in the letter from, but there is no, I thought there was no program to get that $10 million into that 278. So we're going to remain 4 lanes for a while.
Yes, well, you are not going to be funding that through transportation sales tax, I'll put it that way.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
Okay.
So we're not going to have, now there's a study being done by Beaufort County from 141 up to 170. I would like to postpone this until that comes out, because that could help us make this decision. I just don't think that if you travel 278, and I think, Andy, you travel 278?
Yes, sir.
You get people going across Brickyard Road, and at 60 miles an hour, they misjudge all the time. And it's going to be a traffic hazard. Now, we have Argent Boulevard that we have no control of right now, because they did the development, and we relied on SCDOT to help us. And now they're saying, well, it's not time. This is the only time that we have a chance to make a difference. And in development, we have a chance because we can say, okay, this is going to be good for 278 or it's not going to be good for 278. And on top of that, our planning board, said traffic impact study to be provided as suggested by the planning board. That was, they okayed it, but they gave in quotes, we need a traffic study. So they had a problem that they initiated in having a problem with traffic. Now, these are all bells going off. We've got to start looking at this. There's 3 developments that have had a problem, or had a problem that something's happened, or they've been addressed as a problem, and we still continue to go forward. So that's all I have. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Madam Chair, if it pleases you, I'd like to ask Mr. Zareski to address some of the traffic concerns that Mr. Kemp's brought up, because we've had discussion on this before with the entrances and exits he has, not only at 278, but Brickyard as well, just to clarify.
Clarification with respect to the Planning Commission, what they did agree to do with respect to the submission by me of a complete traffic study was essentially hold the approval of my master plan contingent upon their approval of the master plan, not the concept plan, but the master plan for the community. In addition to that, since this all started, we we have weeks ago, a month and a half ago, engaged the Beal Engineering to do the traffic study for the program. The scope of that work was scoped out with and in conjunction with the South Carolina Department of Transportation. The only intersections that they asked us to investigate were the two associated with my property, the two connections to US 278, and the existing connection of, or the proposed connection of my property to Brickyard Road, and the possible impacts that it would have of the connection of Brickyard Road to its existing connection to US 278. The traffic study has been done. It is satisfactory. It has been submitted to the South Carolina Department of Transportation, and we are going to be required to make certain common sense improvements to the intersections consisting of queue lanes, additional queuing for turning lanes, the new queue and turn lanes for my easterly entrance, which is the entrance closest to Hilton Head Lakes North, and to reconfigure the geometry ever so slightly of the existing connection of Brickyard Road to US 278. It tilts. They want it to be 90 degrees. And so they've asked me to consider doing those things, which I will be agreeable to do. Other than that, the impacts from this detailed traffic study that has been completed and now submitted are to the extent of what I just explained to you. If anybody has any other questions?
When do we get the traffic study?
It'll be, well, I'm going to work through the South Carolina Department of Transportation, get their final okay, and naturally it's going to be paper clipped to my future applications for the master plan and detailed civil engineering entitlement of the project. If it doesn't get approved by Jasper County, if my TIA does not get approved by Jasper County, it doesn't get approved for reasons I don't know why it would not be approved from South Carolina DOT, there's no project. Or let me put it this way, it's not this project, okay? But presently, given the results and the conclusions from the TIA that have now been submitted, and again, footnote, the study was coordinated and scoped out originally before it ever started with the South Carolina Department of Transportation. So based on their requirements of what to study and how to study it, we did that. It's completed, and it'll be part of the submission, a formal submission with the master plan when we get in front of the Planning Commission again at that time.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
so you're saying to us that you have met all the requirements that are necessary for this project to move forward. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Madam Chair, I make a motion for approval of third reading of ordinance 0-2022-16.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No.
Okay, you let her know she can get it in the records. Mr. Tedder?
As I mentioned a moment ago, thank you, Madam Chairwoman, this PDD is accompanied by a development agreement which provides certain infrastructure guarantees, other matters that are appropriate for development agreement. It has clarifications there. What I mentioned before was the public sewer, which is in section V2, where we clarified that it has to have both public water and public sewer before anybody can occupy any properties. There have been no changes since second reading. You may recall when we had second reading in June, 1st of June, we had made some changes to clarify the fee structure to make it a little bit easier to follow. We have increased the fees on development agreements in this one. This is the first one that we brought forward where the fees have been increased. There are a total of $5,000 per unit, subject to the CPI indicator as we go along. Take that back, there was one change. There was a typographical to Schedule D, which was the schedule of development. There was a typographical that had 2005 instead of 2027, so we've made that change. I don't know what I can add. This is a public hearing scheduled for this tonight. There's two required on the development agreement. You may recall that we failed to announce that one meeting and second one, so we had to go back to it. So I've had 3 public hearings on this project by the time we finish up tonight. So with that, I'll answer any questions or wait till after the public hearing is open and closed. I've had no requests or submissions for comments to my office on the development agreement under the public hearing notice.
At this time, I'm going to open the floor for a public hearing on this ordinance. Going once, going twice, public hearing closed. Call for a motion.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Do we hear a second?
Second.
It's been properly moved and second. All in favor of, say aye.
Aye.
Chairwoman Clark, the next item on the agenda is a public hearing only, and this is for the ordinance approving.
That's, before we go into that, we're going to take a 10 minutes break. Please be back on the bench by 5 after. We're gonna take a break. We're going to convene. At this time, I'm going to ask Mr. David Tedder.
This would be on the Chelsea Plantation. This is a public hearing only. There's no action to be taken tonight under the Development Agreement Act of the State of South Carolina. At least two public hearings must be held. The second public hearing needs to be announced at the first public hearing. Through inadvertence, when we met down in McCartyville back in May, we had a public hearing down there. The second public hearing had been noticed in the paper but was not announced, so we started over again in June. So we had a first public hearing on June 6th. This is the second. As I mentioned at the last meeting, I have been discussing matters in light of the request from the public to form a task force, which the council did and authorized, which is in the formative and beginning stages. The task force is looking at the corridor along the river, the Broad River, and areas, looking at areas they want to conserve. I've been speaking with the representatives of the developer, and while this is going on, they are exploring alternatives that address, begin to address and hopefully fully address the concerns about density, traffic, buffers, wetlands, conservation, stormwater runoff, and those matters. So there will be more to come later on in the summer as the task force does its work and the developer continues modifying the development agreement, which is in its formative stages at this point. So look at this as an opportunity. The developer's representative is here to hear more public comment, but recognizing what's before you will not be the final product that's brought back to council consideration later on in the summer.
Thank you. To speak first, or?
It's public hearing. Nicole Scott Ewing is the attorney for the developer. See here? I can't see that far.
Yes.
Yeah, Nicole's back there.
Once we go into the public hearing, if they have any questions.
Yes, ma'am. We're happy to answer any questions you may have.
All right, at this time, we are going into the public hearing.
Chairwoman Clark, I have 13 people signed up. I've received 7 public hearing comments that are written, and I have one that came in past the time. And I'll be happy to read these if you like, for the record.
We can briefly.
The first one is from Chris Marsh. For the past 35 years, I've worked with both developers and with environmental nonprofits along the coast of South Carolina. Based on these experiences, I would like to share my 3 observations. The first is to share the sage advice of visionary land planner Robert Marvin, who is a member of the South Carolina Hall of Fame, because he is recognized as one of South Carolina's most distinguished land architects in the 20th century. Mr. Marvin always told his clients, every decision you make moves you toward a goal or away from a goal. I believe Mr. Marvin's advice is timely as the County Council discusses whether or not to accept or reject the proposed rezoning of the Chelsea South Tract. Careful thought and extensive discussion went to the creation of Jasper County Comprehensive Plan, which is on the section of Jasper County's rural preservation. Therefore, I believe if Mr. Marvin were here today, his advice would be that the discussions about changing the zoning of this tract should also involve council discussing if its goals for the county have changed. Secondly, I want to share an unintended consequence related to a residential development and local governments. In 2001, I met with a Lake of Bluffton official who stated that Bluffton had decided to incorporate the surrounding areas so they could control the kind of growth that occurred in Bluffton. The unintended consequence was that by doing so, there was an influx of new residents from other parts of the country who did not understand or embrace the local culture, and Bluffton's culture changed drastically. I encourage this council representing the residents of Jasper County to revisit what is about Jasper County's current culture that you want to pass on to future generations. Because of this experience, I want you to keep the county's great growth at a modest rate so that you have time to pass this culture on to new residents so that what makes Jasper County special to you today is not lost. Third, as you think about the importance of local culture, think about the role of Port Royal Sound in the lives of Jasper County residents. For generations, this one-of-a-kind estuary has been the goose that lays the golden eggs for Jasper County residents. For locals, it's easy to take for granted the quality of boating, fishing, crabbing, and shrimping that's currently available. But because pollution and overuse has degraded every other estuary along the Atlantic coast, Port Royal Sound is starting to be recognized as a national treasure. This means that droves of people from everywhere in the country are clamoring to spend large sums of money to move here. An extensive review of 20 years of local SCD HEC data by Dr. Monti at USCB reveals that this kind of development adjacent to a major tidal creek degrades local water quality. The density and number of houses proposed for Chelsea South would add incrementally to all the negative aspects occurring elsewhere in the Sound's watershed because of rapid growth. The good news is that Jasper County now has the opportunity to be recognized as the protector of water quality and fishing in the Upper Sound because of over half of the watershed of Port Royal Sound occurs in Jasper County. Jasper County is a special place, and I hope it continues to be that way. Thank you for my opportunity to share my thoughts with you. The next one is from Mr. Earl Cooler.
We are going to let the people who are here do their 3 minutes. And I'm asking you, if you've been up and you have read your letter twice, we heard you. We understand exactly what you were saying. So if you would come up and you would condense as to what you're saying, you can bring that this thing. We would certainly appreciate that. Because we have, how many people on here? A lot. You can, Marty.
Okay, first we have Walter Morgan, a resident at Strawberry Hill.
I'm Walter Morgan, and my wife and I live on Strawberry Hill. Our saltwater and hunting areas and all is very dear to all the Jasper County people. And we observed years ago when someone was trying to put a trash dump over there by Snake Road, and same area here that's coming up for development, that the runoff was going to be hazardous to Hazard Creek, which is now, as we know, is already, I don't think we can get shellfish out of it because of the bad readings in it now. This thing would, number one, we're worried about our salt water. Number two, we're worried about the other things that this growth brings in with our traffic, our roads. How many people is it going to put in our schools? Have all these things been studied, and do we know what it will cost this county to allow this to happen? And I think this is what most of the folks sitting here are concerned about tonight, and I'll listen more to hear what you have to say, but that basically that's what we don't like.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't want to
Next, we have Mr. William Young.
Madam Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Young.
Well, I sat there a while, but number of years, about 15 with the planning commission, so I understand what y'all talking about. My concern basically is drainage. I'm an engineer and I've done drainage for years, and when you start paving large areas, you've got water that runs off, and where's it to run off? I understand they want to put a ditch to Hazard Creek. I think what it needs to be is like a series of ponds between one and the other. The water's got to go off, but the ponds can handle the water and let it off slowly rather than floods like we've had before. Like a number of years ago, we had a 12-inch rain and it changed the river in front of my dock. My dock is now filling up with the mud instead of having 6 feet of water at low tide. So, the only other thing is, ever since everybody got GPS, all of the traffic now use 462 if they go from Buffett Hill to Hand Knoll. So that's going to soon be, need to be 4 lane or 5 lane, the way it's going. One morning I pulled out and I counted 280 cars between Strawberry Hill and 170, and they were still backed up to Oldfield trying to make the turn. When 170 was built or was planned, there was an overpass to be put there. But the founding fathers found that they would save $250,000 by not putting it in. So today we have a problem. Anyway, thank you for listening to me.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Next we have Grant McClure with the Coastal Conservation League.
Good evening, Council and Chairwoman. My name is Grant McClure. I'm with the Coastal Conservation League. This past Wednesday, the Conservation League published an online petition requesting the Jasper County Council to deny the rezoning request for Chelsea South Tract. In less than a week, the petition has garnered around 500 signatures, and I'm pleased to announce that most of them are from Okatee and Ridgeland, so 29909 and 29936 area codes. Additionally, last Thursday night, we co-hosted a community meeting with our land trust partners, as well as a concerned citizens group at the Port Royal Sound Foundation. That meeting was well attended with about 20 residents, all from Jasper County, as well as some folks from across the way in Beaufort. Our concerns remain largely the same, and I want to use this as an opportunity to amplify those concerns that are held by both the Coastal Conservation League and by the Concerned Citizens Group. And so these include disregarding existing zoning, future land use maps, potential impacts to the 131 acres of wetlands on the site, degrading water quality, the cost of servicing sprawl, and sort of to wrap things up, I did want to just present you with this petition. If I can please provide that to the council or Mr. Fulgham. I've got the list of signees. So thank you.
Thank you, Grant. You can leave that with Mr. Fulgham.
Great.
Make sure. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Next we have Maria Hernandez. Maria? No?
Just here listening.
Oh, okay. Next we have Russell Fredericks. Russell.
Good evening, Council. Good evening, Madam Chairwoman. Just to make a couple quick comments. Certainly this development potential concerns us greatly. The impact on wildlife, the estuaries nearby, and the greater traffic issues that we already have. So just want to express that tonight, and hopefully this turns around and goes the other direction. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Ms. Ann Ori. Welcome, Ms. Ann.
Good evening, Madam Chairwoman and council members. I'm here tonight to express my concerns regarding the Chelsea South project. I promise I won't be as long as I was last time. My name is Ann Ori, and I own property on Snake Road directly across from the proposed Chelsea South development. One entrance is Middleton Creek Road, and it is directly across from one of the proposed exits on Snake Road. The other entrance to my property is on Walnut Hill, and that is already dangerous due to a curve on Snake Road just before the entrance. Can you imagine how much more dangerous this could be to enter and exit Walnut Hill Road and Middleton Creek Road if entrances to Chelsea South are added on Snake Road, much less 3 entrances as proposed? Add to that the number of construction vehicles, cement trucks, waste management trucks, landscapers, utility trucks, plus all the new homeowners, which are proposed to make approximately 15,000 daily car trips in and out of the development. How can you consider adding all of that to the already heavily traveled and dangerous road that connects Beaufort and Jasper counties? When do we say enough is enough? I'm opposed to this development and its impact on our infrastructure, traffic, the waste management, ecosystem, and rivers. There are 14 property owners exiting and entering Walnut Hill and Middleton Creek roads directly onto Snake Road and across from the proposed main entrance to Chelsea South development. As property owners, none of us were notified prior to the first reading, and I understand that's because one side of the road is Beaufort County, the other side is Jasper. But we're just as important because we're right in the middle. The only people in favor of this development are the developers and the Chelsea property owners. None of these individuals will be directly affected by the development. The developers come in, they make their money, and most often go back to their homes and neighborhoods in other counties and states. I ask the Jasper County Council to oppose this project and keep Chelsea South rural. Thank you.
Next, we have Ms. Sissy Adams.
Thank you for this opportunity to let you hear my concerns. My name is Sissy Adams, and I've been a resident of Chelsea community for the last 49 years. My husband Lloyd and I own a business in Jasper County on Highway 170, and we've had that business for the last 46 years. We pay an enormous amount of taxes to Jasper County, even though we don't live in Jasper County. And my concern is not only the pollution to our precious waterways and water supply, but the amount of traffic that is already on Highway 170, Snake Road, Argent Boulevard, Highway 462, and Highway 278. I see firsthand what has happened to our beloved Low Country. We have had a record service and body shop on 170, as I said, for the last 46 years. We used to tow 3 or 4 cars a month. Now it's 2 to 4 a week. I see firsthand the property damage and, most importantly, the people who are impacted by this increase in traffic. They're severely injured or have lost loved ones. I have to talk to them. I have to comfort them. This is now, and I don't want to think what it would be like if this goes forward. I am sure everyone here knows someone who has been in an accident on Snake Road or one of the other highways I mentioned. If not, you will if this goes forward. I look at McGarvey's Corner and all I see is ugly. How could this happen? But this is what Highway 170 and Snake Road intersection will look like if this is allowed. When Parker's was built, we started towing wreck after wreck by the store. And I just thought, this is ridiculous. How could this happen? Please don't allow this to go forward. The pain and suffering that will occur will be enormous, and it's a terrible price to pay. Thank you.
Next, we have Ms. Connie Ori Horton.
Good evening, Chairwoman Clark and members of Jasper County Council. My name is Connie Ori Horton. As I've mentioned before, I was born and raised in Jasper County and grew up in Granville, not far from Councilman Dr. Brantley and his family. I care about Jasper County and it will always be my home. I am opposed to the rezoning of Chelsea South. The comprehensive plan for Jasper County calls for this area to be rural conservation in its future land use. This is not, as rural conservation land use requires, indicative of development that is aligned with its rural surroundings. Development of this nature does not fit the rural development that exists today and which is projected for the future. I am also concerned about the environmental impacts to an already fragile area. Don't the children of Jasper County and generations to come deserve to have our resources protected for them, to have the same quality of life we have all enjoyed growing up here? Don't they deserve to crab and fish in our creeks? Our landfills are already seeping into our creeks and causing oyster beds to shut down. We must protect our local waterways and the environment. Who benefits from this overdevelopment? Who, other than developers and property owners of Chelsea, thinks this is a good idea? For those of us who actually reside here and own property, I have not spoken with one person who is excited about this development. Overdevelopment is destroying the South Carolina Lowcountry. You, the members of this council, have a huge responsibility. It is also a wonderful opportunity to protect. As Mr. Kemp said earlier, this is your chance to make a difference when it comes to development. I urge you to deny this request and please keep Chelsea South rural. Thank you.
Next, we have Mr. Milton Woods, a local. That's what it says.
I'm very, very local.
Yes, you are.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Don.
council members, I'm Milton Woods. I spent most of my life in the county. I'm a very proud Jasper County citizen. We have a jewel here, but folks, it's quickly getting out of control. And I know that politicians understand numbers, and numbers represent votes. And you're being asked to make some tough decisions, some decisions that will affect generations, as Connie just alluded to. Our children, our grandchildren, and generation after generation. And we want to preserve what was preserved by our forefathers. You know, it's so much happening right now in the Lowcountry. And we've always referred to the county next door, Beaufort. but it's Beaufort and Jasper today. And next it will be Hampton, Colleton. And we have got to slow this thing down and get control of what's coming. I don't know if all of us understand the importance of our traffic issues. We are really facing some major traffic problems. Now, we talk about the Chelsea South project, 291 acres or thereabouts, with 131 acres of wetlands, leaving something like 130 acres. And according to the map, I counted 12 streets on that 131 acres. And all that's going to be paved. So we've got a major stormwater runoff problem from before day one arrives here. And yes, they're talking about using one of the existing ditches to move the water from the wetland area across Chelsea property that is owned by the same developer into the headwaters of Hazard Creek. Hazard Creek is already shut down, or DHEC is already shut down the shellfish harvesting out of those headwaters. Those headwaters are...
The time is up.
Give me just a few more.
Give me a few more seconds.
Okay.
Those headwaters empty into Chichessie. Chichessie empties into Okeechobee. That's over around the Monkey Farm, backside of Berkeley Hall. It empties into U-Haul Creek, which empties into Broad River. That empties into Boyd Creek, all the way up to the county line of Hampton and Beaufort and Jasper and Colleton counties in the Point South area. Folks, this is a major issue. And I'm afraid, and as I look at the maps that's been provided by the conservation groups that have so much interest in being sure that this thing is done right, that this is critical land. Critical land. And if we have a development, let's do it right. Just give you a few of the numbers. On 462, and these are traffic studies from last year. The 462 traffic count as of last year was 7,700 vehicles per day. Snake Road is 3,400 a day, and if you put 1.5 cars per unit, that's another 1,500 units right there. Plus, there's 69,000 plus square feet of mini storage facility that's going in. And if that size amount of square feet of storage space, I'm sure there's going to be more than one golf cart going in and out in a day's time. So that adds again, that compounds that traffic problem. And then the thing that blows your mind is 170 is 27,600 cars per day. That was a year ago. We have not even talked about the Argent East tract, which is right in front of the entrance to Oldfield. According to the planning department of Hardyville, the master plan calls for 9,000 homes in that project. They've been working on the infrastructure for over 2 years, plus the commercial that's going in there. That is right at the intersection of 170 and 462. To get to Snake Road, you got to travel 462 or 170 to egress or to exit.
Mr. Miller, I got to be fair to everybody. You only get 3 minutes, and I've given you 2 extra.
Okay.
You know,
well, I want you to know I do appreciate
we have the same data you were talking about, and we know what those numbers are, and you're right. So.
And I got to have one other paragraph.
Right.
We have not heard one thing about the plans for the left side of 462. I mean of Snake Road going toward the water plant. That is a tract of land that I was told by the developer that he owns. And that's somewhere between 4,700 acres and 5,000 acres. So if this is approved, think what's going to happen in that approximately 5,000 acres. And that goes all the way to Hazard Creek.
Right.
And we're sitting there with that landfill. Folks, this is a critical decision, and I got confidence in the Jasper County Council. Each one of you 4 gentlemen and 1 lady sitting up here, that you will do the right thing for our future generations. Thank you kindly, and may God's blessing be with all.
Thank you. Thank you. Next we have Ms. Jacqueline Cannon. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm a newcomer to your beautiful area, and I just thought I would give you a little perspective. Have moved recently from Florida, and so we've kind of gone through this before there, and I know what a huge decision this is for you. It could be a wonderful project, or it could be the thing that just ruins your whole county and ruins the legacy and the beauty and everything that has made your way of life here so desirable for so many of us to want to come and be a part of it. In Florida, just to let you know our experience, we're on a beautiful waterway, and the developers came in and they always had the most magnificent plans. And unfortunately, the plans didn't always dot all the I's and cross all the T's, and there were a lot of loose ends. And that ended up falling to the taxpayers of our county and to the ruin of so many things that we valued there. The waterways turned polluted, the oyster beds and the clams, we lost it all. We lost our seagrass, the traffic was a problem, and who had to pick up the bills when the developers were gone? The sewers weren't working, there wasn't a proper waterways set up, traffic was awful, the schools weren't funded properly to handle all the new development. So a lot of unintended costs for all the good intentions ended up falling to the community, who ended up not being able to afford and pass the kinds of things and the tax referendums and so forth and put the improvements in that the developers probably unintentionally didn't know what the cost would be in the future, but it fell to the residents to pick up where the developer did not fund those things in the beginning. And so I just ask you to very carefully consider because you will have a very negative impact on your waters here with this plan as it's proposed. And so I thank you so very much for your time today.
Thank you for that. Next we have Ms. Janet Ori Schonhoff. Did I pronounce that right? Good. Welcome.
Hi, Madam Chair, council members. Thank you for letting me speak here today. My name is Janet Ori Schonhoff. I'm a resident at 70 Marion Ori Lane, Oakity, directly across Snake Road to the proposed rezoning and Chelsea South development. I strongly oppose this development of Chelsea South for the reasons set forth below. I have reviewed some of Jasper's Journey Comprehensive Master Plan, okay, just in looking through it. And there are several goals and principles in that plan that Jasper has vowed to follow, yet they seem to be contrary to the current proposed plan for Chelsea South development. Number one, Jasper's Journey vision, as stated in the Jasper's Journey Master Plan, is stated as follows. The identity of Jasper County is intrinsically rooted in the beauty and the diversity of the natural environment, rich legacy of our history, and the spirit of our people. Even as the county grows and develops, we will maintain our connection to the waters, marshes, and lands that sustain us. I think this is very important to remember as y'all go forward in considering this proposed development. The community principles, as stated in the plan, there are a few that I state here, state that Jasper County will protect and foster the rural character of Jasper County that defines our sense of place. This was a huge desire of the residents of the Jasper County per the community meetings that y'all conducted during the development of this plan. Top reasons for living in Jasper County: family, quality of life, rural character, and proximity to the coast. Number two on this principle, take pride in its land through the stewardship of historic, natural, and cultural resources, and reduction in litter and blight. A top priority per your community survey was economic development, community facilities, natural resources, and your land use. Number three of the community principles, prioritize the maintenance of existing infrastructure over the development of new infrastructure by guiding growth and development to the places most suitable to serve new development. It is unclear from the published documents whether the infrastructure for water and wastewater can accommodate this expansion. I am sure that a great deal of resources, time, and money went into development of this master plan for Jasper County 4 short years ago. Based on this comprehensive plan, if Chelsea South development moves forward as proposed, this would seem to contradict your vision for Jasper County. My question to you is, what's changed? Are you following your own vision for growing and developing Jasper County while maintaining our connection to the waters, marshes, and lands that sustain us? Thank you for your attention to this important matter, and thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you. Next we have Mr. Smitty Cooler.
Chairwoman Clark, council members, I am another local. Originally from Hardyville, lived in Jasper County for 33 years, out at U-Haul Creek, a stone's throw from Chelsea property. I'm not going to rehash all these things. You've heard it, as Ms. Clark, as you said earlier, you've heard all these things I know. You've heard them in hearings, you've heard them sent to you by email and everything else you can imagine. But I do want to say that this has been excellent for me. I'm here with several of my neighbors in the sense that it's been an awakening, something that being raised here took for granted. This incredible resource. And we have to think through this. We don't have to have studies. We We don't have to have, be environmental experts or traffic experts to simply drive out and look around. If you venture around every day, if you travel back and do the work, it's clear to you there's a problem here. We have a juggernaut of development coming at us, okay? It's almost unrecognizable. And some have said earlier, developers have a right to try to make a living, and property owners have a right to do what they want to do with their properties until it affects everyone else. And this is really a really serious matter in the sense that once this juggernaut gets a momentum, then there's no way to stop it. It's too complex. There's too many people involved, too many commitments. You do have by chance, you have an opportunity here to preserve this tremendous resource. And I know so many people, what's been exciting about being involved in this movement, we'll call it now, is that the number of people who were just like me, kind of in the dark or kind of complacent about it, because we've lived here all our lives, and we didn't pay close enough attention. We should have been working on this a long time ago. And I hope it's not too late. But I know you've heard all these things. I won't rehash, but this is clearly an incredibly dense development that does not belong in such a sensitive area. There's a time and there's places for everything in the right dose and moderation. This is not it. This is extreme in an already very sensitive and suffering area, as you've heard over and over and over. But what I want to convey to you, I was thinking earlier, I was listening to so many of these very eloquent comments, is what would I want to hear if I were sitting in your position? I'd want to know how my people felt in this county, truly how they felt, sincerely, not propaganda, not hyperbole, but truly how they sincerely felt. And what I've been hearing, going to this meeting and talking to neighbors and out trying to help with petitions and so forth, is that people truly love this resource. And they truly, many of them did not know until very recently this was even happening. So please, vote against this zoning change and development application. And not only that, it's a great opportunity for you to set a legacy, to be the leaders in this tremendous opportunity we have, not only worrying about just voting against these things and stopping these things, but starting with our help, starting a new legacy, a new opportunity, a new push to preserve other areas of the county that are so precious. Thank you very much.
Next we have Mr. William Cook.
Good evening, Chairwoman Clark and members of council. Thank you for allowing me to address you tonight. I'm a resident of Okatee, but was originally a Beaufort County native, and I've spent my entire life driving into and outside of Jasper County, particularly crossing the road, the Broad River and the Chichessie, over into Chelsea, which I've always considered a gateway into the beautiful county of Jasper. In my professional life, I'm a conservation attorney. My work takes me all over the country. And I would say that based on my experience, it's an understatement to call Chelsea Plantation and its surrounding areas along Snake Road and along Highway 462 as one of the most significant conservation areas in the nation. To those of us who love the Low Country, it's insulting that Chelsea South's developers have asked this council to rezone rural preservation land that it purchased knowing that the development is totally inconsistent with the county's comprehensive master plan, which you've already heard about tonight. Apart from all the harm that the development will cause, its developers have also irresponsibly, potentially, placed the county at liability risk for illegal spot zoning. Spot zoning occurs when a local government changes zoning to benefit one property owner to the harm or detriment of surrounding property owners in a way that's inconsistent with the comprehensive plan. Chelsea South meets this test. In closing, I urge Jasper County not to change its rural preservation zoning for Chelsea South. There is no upside, only costs that Jasper County and future generations will be forced to bear that will ruin the county's gateway forever. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. that was all of our list. Madam Chair, allow me to, is there somebody else?
We got a couple over here to be read.
I have the rest of these to read if you'd like,
Or you can email them to us or whatever you prefer.
whichever way you'd like. It's up to you.
Get it attached, email it to us.
Just email.
Yeah, that's the consensus of council.
On the comments, I know that all of our council hear you loud and clear. There's a lot of challenges and issues, especially when it comes to traffic and transportation in Jasper County. When you have to drive through Jasper County and you've got 3 million people going to Hilton Head every year alone, that alone taxes our infrastructure, which is severely deficient. 2 weeks ago, I had our SCDOT chairman, Mr. Barnwell Fishburne, come down, and we spent a couple of hours riding around 170, 462, 17 between Ridgeland and Hardyville, and I can promise you, we hit every bump I came to. I didn't miss any of them. And showed him exactly what kind of trouble we're in. And we need help. We need you to talk to our state legislative delegation. We need you to call them. These are state roads. The county doesn't own any of these roads. A lot of people think we do, but we don't. But we constantly are asking for help. We're writing letters. We're going to visit them. We're talking to them, trying to get funding. And we know the situations, we're in dire straits. I think just alone, and I don't know, this is an approximation, but there are tens of thousands of homes that the city of Hardyville has permitted as of today. That 9,000 home Argent tract that Mr. Woods mentioned earlier, the county wasn't even involved in that development agreement. We found out about that when the press release went out. So you need to start going to your city of Hardyville council meetings and seeing what they have going on, because that's where all the development and the traffic impact is coming from on Highway 170, 462, and 17. Unincorporated Jasper County has very little development for residential, and that's the huge impact right there. So keep that in mind. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Did anyone have any questions for the attorney? She is here. She gladly answers them. Okay, no questions. We'll move on.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
If I may just say one thing. We have, this is like David mentioned earlier, this is the third public hearing that we've had on the DA, and we've had 2 public hearings on the PD. So a total of 5 public hearings have been had on this matter. And I wanted to let council know that we have listened to every single comment. We've written down every single comment. We've gotten copies of every comment that has been submitted to council, and we have digested them. And we are trying to be responsive to them. And I know you haven't heard from us yet, because we've been taking in all of this information. And we would like to address those comments, not in a public hearing setting like this, where it's ad hoc and one-on-one, but we would, at some point, at council's time and council's preference, we would like to schedule a workshop with you so that we could talk about these traffic issues, these environmental issues, because things have changed somewhat since we first presented things to you in response to what we've heard from your residents, and we want to be good neighbors. So we would like to get in front of you at your convenience to discuss some of these things. Thank you.
But it's not going to be right now because.
I don't want to do it right now.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about the time frame. We're trying to get our budget out of here and get it on to Columbia. And by that time, all personnel in this building is burnt out. And they're going on vacation, I can tell you that. And when they get back with their minds refreshed, then we can schedule, put something together. But like I said at the beginning, we hear you. We hear every word that you say. Now, who is going to crabbing tomorrow? At this time, we're gonna close the public hearing. And we're gonna continue to move on.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Call me back. Yeah. Thank you for what you said to me the other day. You don't, do you remember the first one? Good. Good to see you. Receive your friend. Let me ride.
Like I said, most of them are occasionally, but I'm watching all over.
That thing All right, John, we can meet the next council meeting will be 30 minutes. This is over time. Let's get up and get on out of here.
Which map goes with which map? So this one goes with the next one.
Okay, we're gonna move right along. Oh, Jesus.
I'll move fast.
Yeah. Let's go.
So, Madam Chairwoman, the next item, after you close that public hearing, the next item would be a consideration of first reading of ordinance approving a development agreement for HC Partners. These two particular properties that make this up have been before the council over the last couple of months. They've been the subject of rezonings on Speedway Boulevard. You can see them on the map that's on the screen, Speedway Logistics 2, and up above that, Speedway Logistics, the other way, Speedway Logistics 1. These were properties that were split zone and then before the council to move to rezone them to general commercial, and I believe both of them have had second reading and we're on pause now because staff has recommended a development agreement so that we can control and have better input on traffic mitigation, impact fee, developer fees, and matters like that. Just as a recap, this is based on our industrial development agreement like we did with 95 Logistics, where we have them being paying for all the road improvements. This one is a 5-year term. It allows up to 900,000 square feet on 2 properties, which are 33 acres and 28 acres, of warehouse distribution and related accessory light industrial uses. They're responsible for a traffic study, which we'll have for you at the next meeting to provide you the traffic study. And the development agreement provides for it after they get about halfway through, just as with 95 Logistics, an updated traffic analysis and mitigation plan being brought forward so that if there's any future or further mitigation, it can be identified, engineered, and constructed at the developer's expense. This is first reading. There will be public hearings in July and in August on this, and I'm happy to try to answer any questions, but I think you've got more information about the properties from the rezonings of the last 2 meetings.
Are we on D? What section of D?
I believe it's D.
Yeah, D.
I can't see the agenda, but I believe it is D. HCP
Are there any
Partners.
questions?
Yes, Madam Chairman. On that development agreement, you mentioned Exhibit A. What is that?
Exhibit A should be the development agreement which was provided to us, but I don't know that it made it out as part of there was some issues with the agenda package. I'm sitting it out tomorrow. It's been prepared and is there. We're trying to move this forward at first reading so that it can catch up with the other 2 by September.
At this time, I'm gonna call for a motion.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Do you hear a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No.
David Taylor?
In the same vein, this is a ordinance authorizing a multi-county industrial park, business park in conjunction with Hampton County. It relates to these 2 properties that we just spoke of, the 28 acres and the 33 acres. It allows for the opportunities to offset or provide special source revenue credits or whatever for mitigation beyond the norm if necessary, which we don't believe is going to happen. But we do want to provide the benefits of the multi-county park in this particular area. We have consulted with the Southern Carolina Alliance and worked with them on putting this together, and that ordinance is before you for first reading.
Okay, any questions?
Madam Chairman? In the first reading, it says one or more locations. Is that just put in there for, when it says, I think it's the, whereas, it says one or more locations, and then we mention one location. Is that just something that's boilerplate type?
I think there are two properties involved here. It's one park at two locations, one park.
Yeah, you want to go back to the graphic? Madam Chair, Mr. Kemp, the developer is working on 4 different projects. The top one you'll see is in the Hardyville Commerce Park, and the subject of the development agreement, the MCIP, are the next 2 properties.
Okay. Call for the motion. Did I call for the motion?
Motion to approve, Madam Chair.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, next on item F on the agenda is first reading of ordinance to amend the Frampton Tract Development Agreement by granting a second 5-year renewal, modifying the developer fee schedule and making certain text amendments. This property is located up at Point South. It's been the subject of a development agreement for years. The original development agreement provided for additional renewal terms if the council saw fit. There were no defaults by the developer. This project has survived 2 recessions and some other things. This is the tract that we recently participated in the Builder's First Source spec building and its new additional parcel that's in this area here. So we want to renew the development agreement with interest up there, revise the development fee section as we did with Center Point to reflect our current terminology, and exempt the first 400,000 square feet of development from the developer fees to kind of catch up where we are out there, so that they're clear that what is currently being built isn't subject to development fees. That is basically the reason it's coming back forward, is because it was reaching the end of its term, and this will extend it out another 5 years.
Okay. Call for a motion?
Madam Chairman, I have a question.
Yes.
Under the amendment, it says in section H, I think it is, it says under amendment exhibit D, that's blank. What is exhibit D?
Could you tell me which page you're on, Mr.?
I have no idea, it's just section H. Just
Number H, council finds it appropriate to amend the developer fees.
Or in draft, right. Exhibit D.
Exhibit D is the development schedule. It's what their plan is on how many units to get built within on 5-year increments.
And why is it blank?
Because I'm waiting for Mr. Zinn, who is the developer, who's out on vacation for the last 10 days, to give me an updated schedule and consultation with the Southern Carolina Alliance, who's trying to market this property too. They've got some prospects, I guess, looking at it, so we're kind of getting flexible on that to see if it comes to a better estimate. Schedule D is not a mandatory schedule that you have to meet. It's an estimating tool so you can figure out when your infrastructure may be needed.
Any more questions? At this time, I call for a motion.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Second.
To properly move in second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No.
David?
Okay, as you know, last meeting, we had first reading of ordinance to set coroner fees for autopsy reports, various different documents that have traditionally been charged by the coroner's office. This is second reading. There have been no changes to first reading. It exempts law enforcement and next of kin from paying most of the fees so that we can have them as a public service. And it's the administration and staff's recommendation that we formalize this fee schedule so that it's been adopted by the council.
Motion to approve, Madam Chair.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor of say aye.
Aye.
Okay, H is mine. At the retreat that we held a month or two ago, there was a question about reducing the tax rates on boats. The state statutes allow for a reduction in value to get it down to a lower rate than otherwise would be charged on that. This ordinance accomplishes that. It mimics the state statute that allows a reduction of a value that's promoted by 42.75% for purpose of taxation. It doesn't apply to a boat that's large enough or is used for a primary or secondary residence which already receives a 4 or 6% tax rate. I believe there was a fiscal impact analysis that was prepared so that we understood what the value to the budget would be, and if I'm correct, it's approximately $60,000 overall.
Any questions? Call for a motion.
Motion to approve, Madam Chair.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Move and properly second. All in favor of say aye.
Aye.
All right. Ms. Burgess.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of council. Tonight is the third reading of ordinance number O-2022-17, which is the fiscal year 2022-2023 capital and operations budget. There have been some changes to the ordinance from the second reading. I'm trying to make this a little bit larger. There was an addition to the ordinance itself, so we changed the title to reflect that change. So that's what's highlighted in yellow there. And there was also a correction to the millage rates that are allocated to the county and the millage rates that are allocated to the emergency services. Although the total amount remains the same at $140. And then there was an addition in section 10 with regard to lapsing of funds, which basically allows by the request of the department head and with the approval of the county administrator to allow for funds that were not utilized during the prior budget year the department head to make an application. It has to be no later than August 1st, and for approval by the county council has to go to the county administrator first, and then it will be taken to you as the county council for your approval to carry those funds forward. So that's what that paragraph there is highlighted. And
Madam Chair, if I can just jump in there 1 second, Ms. Burgess, and
Yes.
say that is specifically designed for projects that you may have obligated us for this year that are not completed, consulting contracts, things like that, or infrastructure or projects to include renovation projects, rolling stock purchases, those kinds of things. It wouldn't be for anything strictly operational. And again, as Ms. Burgess said, it has to be submitted to me, and we would bring it to you for your approval in August.
Section 15 had a correction to the county property tax, local option sales tax, credit revenue, and then got my papers out of order. And then we added to section 17, previously the Board of Assessment Appeals and the Board of Zoning Appeals members. We only had one of those two boards in there receiving an annual stipend, so we made sure that both of those boards now receive an annual stipend of $500. And then there was a typo in section 19, and we corrected that, which has to do with the value of adopting the valuation of the property as of December 31st, 2021. So that's the actual ordinance and the changes that were made from the second reading.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you've had the corrections, oversight, typo, errors, and it's time for us to put this baby to bed. Time for us to put it to bed and let it travel when it wake up on to Columbia. Thank staff for all the hard work that they have put into this budget. So at this time, I'm going to call for the third reading of this ordinance for approval.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded.
I have a few comments. On carryover, Madam Chair?
What?
On carryover, that's an accrual, correct? That would be an accrual?
So it would be, you're talking about the lapsing of funds?
Right.
So it would be an addition, it would not necessarily be an accrual because we use a hybrid accrual method, but it would be in addition to the budget.
But haven't previously we've been told by the auditor that that shouldn't happen? We shouldn't have an accrual?
We don't, it's not an accrual.
Oh, well.
It's not an accrual. What happens is it would be similar to a budget amendment after the fact, after the books are closed at June 30, and we move forward into, we have a certain amount of period of time that we can capture revenues and capture some of the expenditures if we had previously budgeted, or sorry, we had a purchase order for them and received them prior to June 30th, but we haven't yet paid for them. So we have a period of time of about 60 days that we can clean up the books, and when we get that done, if there are items that were capital items that we were unable to expend completely in the budget for last year, we would ask that those items be carried over and increase the budget, but it would not be an accrual.
So this is something new?
This is new.
Because previously you had
correct. This is a provision that we felt like it was necessary. It should have been, perhaps should have been in the previous ordinances, but we wanted to make it clear this year.
Thank you.
All in favor of?
Aye.
Let it be known by raising your hand. Okay. 3, may have the same, huh?
So we have a 3-2 vote.
You have a 3. Those opposed, please raise your right hand. That's 3-2. Budget is passed. Move right along. Presentation of proposal of construction management at Worcester. Kimberly Burgess.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of council. The Jasper County advertised for qualification proposals for construction management at risk services. The proposals were due May 18th. We received 3 timely responses. The proposers are Huss Inc., IP Builders LLC, and MBCon Construction Company Incorporated. The qualifications were reviewed by a committee consisting of Mr. Fulgham, Mr. Lucas, Mr. Terry, and myself. And after careful review of the qualifications of each of the companies and proposers, the committee unanimously selected MBCon Construction Company as the provider that best meets the requirements of a construction management at risk service provider for Jasper County. Therefore, the staff would like to recommend that the council accept the qualification proposal submitted by MBCon Construction Company, Inc., and authorize Mr. Fulgham to execute all necessary documents.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Do I hear a second? Properly moved and
I
seconded.
have a question. Is this for all projects? all building projects, or is this just for large building projects? I mean, is there a point where you say, I can do this locally, or we're going to go competitive?
I think they're doing a separate piece of work for us, as you may remember. They're doing a capital plan for us, and so we're in the middle of doing that. Once that's completed, we'd like to bring that back to you and tell you our intent. But if you approve this tonight, I would really like to get them started on 4 projects that we have going that are major projects. And those are the airport improvements, the farmers market renovation, the Pratt Memorial Library renovation. I said 4 and I've counted 3. What am I missing?
Which one? Farmers Market, you said that one.
Farmers market,
Pratt.
library, airport. Airport. I think that's it. Those are the currently funded ones that we need to get moving.
Also, I looked at the stuff that you gave us with that.
Yes, sir.
They had pros and cons.
Yes, sir.
And what does it mean by reduced scope of work if they don't meet the GMP, which is the guaranteed maximum price? They can change the scope of work.
Well, they would value engineer it with our input, if that was, yep.
And one other thing, ability to self-perform if it's advantageous. What does that mean?
That means that they are in fact a construction company, unlike some of the others, I believe, so that they can do their own block work, they can do their own work. So if they bid it out and they see that those elements are too expensive, they can step in instead of hiring a subcontractor.
Thank you.
Call for a motion. Call for all in favor of.
Aye.
All right, moving right along. Kimberly
Yes,
Burgess.
ma'am. This is a quote for signs at Cypress Ridge Business Park. The signage currently at the park requires updating for safety reasons. Recently, traffic signs have fallen due to deterioration. The missing traffic signs may create hazardous driving conditions. Therefore, the county determined that time was of the essence to replace them. And because the situation presented a potential safety hazard, only one sign provider who could provide the signs quickly was consulted to replace the signs, and that provider was Sign Design. During the quotation process, it was determined that it would be cost effective to have other informational signs throughout the park updated and replaced by the same vendor. Therefore, the quotes include informational as well as traffic signs. The quotes total $61,303.72, which also includes the demolition of the current signs, and this will be paid from the special projects line item in the development services budget. Therefore, the staff recommends that the council accept the quotes, there are 2 of them, and to replace the informational and traffic signs throughout Cypress Ridge Business Park, and authorize Mr. Fulgham to enter into an agreement with Sign Design to demolish and remove the current signs and replace the current signs with new signs.
Okay. Any questions?
Madam Chairman, which is from the budget, is it this budget what we're in now or the next budget?
This budget.
This budget?
Well, we have to do it.
So that's why we had the other thing put in there?
No, no, that's not why. We have to do half of it now. So we're going to put a down payment down now. So it'll be this fiscal year, we'll have the deposit, depending upon how quickly, obviously it's 3 days, I don't think they can get it, but it will be within that. We'll have to carry some over, you're right, we will have to carry 30,000, but that was not the reason that was added. But that is a good example.
Okay. At this time, I'm going to call for a motion.
So moved, Madam Chair.
We'll hear a second.
Second.
All in favor of, say aye.
Aye.
All right. Come on, Chief Will. You can get to a final out
Good evening, Madam Chair again, and members of the council. I come before you tonight asking for a change order in reference to the Marshall County Fire Station. Despite some of our best efforts to provide liberal application to the Building and Fire Code, it has come back that we will have to make additional investments into the automatic fire suppression system. As you can see in the change order cost, there is the fire protection quote as well as a budgetary tank and foundation. So we're going to have to provide for an additional tank to that facility. The other issue is the backup generator that is tied into the automatic fire suppression system when the electrician pulled the purchase order, despite the supply chain issues that have manifested here over the past year and a half, has reared its ugly head again. And what we have done is tried to stave off extending out. The original delivery time through their vendor was January of 2023. We have reached out to Blanchard Equipment. They have a delivery that would be substantially faster. And then the other issue is a oil and water separator. Because we have 4 drains in the apparatus bay, we now have to have a oil and water separator for those. So the grand total on that is $177,283. We have made it substantially resolute that this will be the final change order that we will bring before you.
Madam Chair, if I may, your consideration involves a statement from the county attorney.
If I may, administration and myself, Chief Wells and Kim Burrs have been working with our outside construction legal counsel because of the way this contract has evolved. And if you see fit to grant this change order, the specific language I and the attorney, Mr. Kyle, would recommend I've included in a motion which would condition the approval on the architect approving the change order in writing, which is we don't have yet, including approving the pricing and the request for additional completion days that are submitted, and reserving to the county any rights or claims for damages under the contract, including claims for delays in completing the contract, quality issues, or otherwise. I just want to make certain that you understand that all is not well with this contract, and there is going to reserve our rights to see how it goes, because we're not where we're supposed to be at this point.
Madam Chair. Mr. Wells, does the change order, based on what we just shared with us, is an increase in cost?
It's an additional $177,000 is what we're asking. $177,283 is what we have received from the contractor for change order number 7.
Madam Chairman, on this fire suppression, was that, how is that, why are we increasing this? You said that something changed?
Yes, sir. So when the original sprinkler system or automatic fire suppression system was designed for this fire station, reviewing of the plans came back, it would appear that the engineer originally had intended that there be a distributed water system. And unfortunately, that is not the case. The current water tanks that we have on site do not meet engineering specifications that would be satisfactory to supply the water flows needed, and therefore we have to add this tank.
We have to add a tank.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
At this time, I'm going to call for a motion.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Properly moved and second.
To be clear, Madam Chairwoman, does that
Yes.
include the language, Mr. Atkins, making the motion that I just read to you, the conditions?
Yes.
The things that I stated about condition upon the architect's approval and writing and reserving their any possible claims we have.
sure we add this into the motion. The motion to approve change order number 7, condition upon the architect approving the change order in writing, including the pricing and requests for additional completion days, and reserving any rights or claims for damage under the contract, including claims for the delay in completing the project, quality issues or otherwise. That's the amendment to the motion that he made. Now, all in favor of? Aye.
Thank you.
All right, old business, we have none. Council member comments. We're gonna start with John Kemp.
I have no comments at this time. Except I do have comments. Just want to remember David Spizo, good friend of mine, passed away unexpectedly. We all knew he was down there. His wife thought he had at least 2 or 3 more years, so please remember the family in this prayer. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Grant.
Madam Chair, since our last meeting, we attended the grits and fish celebration retirement of one of our employees, Mr. Dale Terry. It was well attended, and we wish him health and enjoyment in his retirement. God bless.
Councilman Atkins.
We thank God for keeping us each and every day. I just want to mention that senior citizen had their day down there in Gillisonville, and I went down there and took one of my pastor's son to play the organ. Went down there and sang about 15 church songs for them. It was a beautiful day. I thought Councilman Kemp was going to mention it, but he didn't mention it, so I'm going to make sure I mention it, that they enjoyed themselves and had some of the senior citizens got in and sing songs along with us. You know, I mean, we sang some beautiful songs, and I mean, we really enjoyed it. It was a really beautiful day with them. I mean, we've been out for about 3 hours, 3 to 4 hours.
Yeah, it was swimming.
You know.
Yeah, it was swimming.
You know, just like I said, quite a few of them sing songs along with us. You know, we give them a chance to have mic, speaker, so that they could have got on the mic and sing the song. It was just something new to them. You know, I ain't no songbird, but I can make a little joyful noise. I tell you, they like it. Just pray that everybody's safe and that everybody stays strong, and just pray for all the bereaved family that going through.
Mr. Sewell.
Madam Chair, I too want to keep the Spizo family in our prayers with his passing. I know there's a visitation this Thursday evening at Saul's Funeral Home in Bluffton. For those who might like to attend that, I also want to congratulate Dale again on his retirement and thank him for his many years of service to the county. And it was an honor to present that Chamber Award to him on behalf of the county and with his family. Again, Dale, thank you for what you've done for us. I did have Barnwell Fishburne down, as I mentioned earlier, about 2 weeks ago, and we did a ride through in the county. We were supposed to get back together and talk briefly today, but he's working on helping us gather some information on funding and what opportunities might be available, and trying to get us some attention down here on some of our infrastructure for our roads, because it's in bad shape. And I think it was a real eye-opener for him to see exactly how bad it was. So be sure to call everybody on your legislative delegation and let them know too, because we've got to get funding. We talked earlier tonight about the I-95 project and the $600 million deal there to widen I-95 in the first phase from the state line to exit 8. Welcome news. Excited about an opportunity there and look forward to seeing the plan that this federally funded program is going to have for us, and it's been well past time and certainly overdue. So looking forward to that as well. So that's some good news. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I too would like to offer my condolences to the Spizzo family. He was one of a kind. He had his ways, but he stuck with what he knew was right. So we want to just keep the Spizzo in our prayer. And at this time, we're going to turn to the county administrator for his report.
Madam Chair, members of council, I know the lateness of the hour, so I don't want to belabor this any longer. You have my report. If you have any questions of me, we're happy to answer any questions you may have, but I don't have anything else to report out other than my written report to you.
Of course, Madam Chair.
Yes.
The letter that's attached to your report, the second to the last paragraph, talks about ground use, the existence of 2017, and you changed it to a reversion 2018 that they're in opposition to. Could you speak to that very briefly for us, please?
Dr. Brantley, give me a guideline on the subject matter. I had several letters in here.
Okay.
Tell me which one you're
The
speaking
one
of.
from the Bridgeton Aviation Community Association.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. You all remember the workshop you had. I received this letter from Mr. Schmidt, the president of that organization, requesting a meeting, and we've set that meeting up through my office. It's sometime in July. I can't tell you when that is. Working that through. Was there something specific?
Yes.
Okay.
The opposition they have to your reversion of 2018.
Yes, sir. I can provide another letter to you. A previous letter he really detailed exactly the differences that he interpreted in the leases. So I can forward that to you, so you can see what his opinion is on the two different sets of leases.
So let me just ask this very briefly.
Yes.
Are you moving in a cooperative manner at this point?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Fine. That's it, Madam Chair.
Okay. That's being it, then I'll call for a motion to adjourn. Do I hear a second?
Second.
It's been properly moved in second. All in favor, say aye. And get up.
Let's go.
And let's go. Have a blessed time.